Hi, my name is Anouk and I'm a Customer Success Engineer at Deeploy. In this tutorial, I will show you how you can set up and use guardrails in Deeploy. Guardrails are a way to safeguard the input or the output of language models. So let's get started. We press login, which brings us to the organization overview. And from here, we have to go into a specific workspace to set up the guardrails that apply to that workspace. So within a workspace here on the left, you can see guardrails, and this is the place where we can create them. In Deeploy, guardrails use a regex expression, and regex is a pattern matching tool that looks for certain patterns in language. Okay, so let's create one. If you want to create a guardrail, you can either select from list, which gives you certain options that are available out of the box, or you can press custom and enter your own regex expression. So let's first select from list. So for example, one of the guardrails that is available here is email. And an email guardrail can be used to either prevent that email addresses go into a language model as input, or that the language model gives personal data, in this case an email address, as output to a user. So what we can do, we can say email guardrail as a name. The regex expression is placed here, and this looks for anything that has the email format, and we can define by what we want to replace it. So say we want to say that instead of the actual email address, we display masked email. And as I just said, it can apply both to the input of a model as well as to the output. So I will leave this as is. And then we can save it. Okay, as you can see here on the right, we see the column used in, and this displays in which deployments this guardrail is actually used. And for now, there's no deployment for which it's used, so let's change that. We go to our deployments overview and click this regulatory compliance assistant, which is an external deployment that uses GPT-4 deployed in Azure and inferences that via Deeploy. So both for external deployments as well as managed deployments, you can use guardrails. And how we can do that, we go to manage and then details. And here we see the tab safety. And here we can select the guardrail. So we select the email guardrail that I just created. And then on top we have to update deployment. We see that here the change is that we added a guardrail and we click deploy. And now the deployment is updated as usual and it's finished. And if we now go back to the guardrails overview in the workspace, we see that this guardrail is now used in the regulatory compliance assistant. Alright, so let me demonstrate how it looks like when this guardrail is applied to a model that is used to generate output. Alright, so let's go into that regulatory compliance assistant deployment and go to the test page. So this is an example input for this LLM. And let's also save the prediction logs to show you how it looks like when no guardrail is triggered. Alright, so if we go to the predictions, we click the latest that I just created. And here below guardrails, you see that no guardrail was triggered for the input or the output because I didn't give any email address in the input, and the LLM also didn't generate any email address in the output. But what happens when I do use an email address in the input? So for example, whose email address is this. I also want to save it, make a prediction. And now we can go to the prediction logs and see that actually the email guardrail was applied both to the input and the output. In the input, we still see the original input because that is what is given, and after that the guardrail is applied. And here in the output, we can see that instead of the info@deeploy.ml, the masked email has been actually used by the model, and that's why you also get an output that is referring to the masked email. And so here we can verify that the guardrail has actually been applied to the input and the output of the model. Next to the email guardrail, there are 3 other guardrails available here in the list, which are the inline event handler, prompt injection, and script tag. The inline event handler and script tag are typically used on the output of a model, so there I would suggest to only select output, and those are used to sanitize HTML output to prevent the use of inline event handlers and script tags. And prompt injection guardrail is typically used on the input of a model because this guardrail prevents any prompt injection attacks that try to get the LLM to ignore all its instructions. And because this is used to the input, that prevents that this attack actually reaches the model. Alright, so in this tutorial I showed you how you can set up and use guardrails for your deployments in Deeploy. So thank you for watching and see you next time.